Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the February 12th, 2026 meeting of the Chatham Finance Committee. I will start by reading the meeting notice. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, including the use of AI note-taking apps, please notify the chair. Seeing none, pursuant to Governor Healy's March 28, 2025 signing of Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20, until June 30th, 2027. This meeting of the Chatham Finance Committee is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 1-508-945-4410 with a conference ID of 690-727-688#, or join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. We will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. I'll call the attendance. Starting now, Stephen Daniel.
I am here, but just barely.
Okay.
Thanks, Andy.
Joanne Sprague.
Here.
Barbara Madison.
Here.
John Papalardo.
Here.
Kristen Andres.
Here.
Tracy Shields.
Here.
Tommy Doan. You're on silent or mute.
Here.
Good, thank you. Eric Whiteley.
Thank you.
Here.
All right, I'm Andy Young. I'm filling in for Stephen at this meeting. I'm here too, so we certainly have a quorum, and we're ready to proceed. Carrie.
Mr. Chair,
Excuse me?
I'm going to interrupt for a second. Could I have about 30 seconds to explain to the taxpayers why I didn't want to vote on the information technologies budget? It'll take me just a few seconds. I feel I owe it to them.
Okay, go ahead.
For the
Please,
past,
keep it brief.
because the reason I wanted to wait and weigh this budget with other budgets was because for the last year, the taxpayers have told us very clearly that the taxes are high. So we've been trying to invent ways to lower taxes for certain groups of people. This budget, the purchase of services was like more than 12% increase. The overall increase for information technology that's way and above the price of inflation, the cost of inflation, and other barometers. And I thought when we're trying to provide all the taxpayers, not just a few, with as low a tax rate as possible, that was a budget that I felt should be discussed and compared to other budgets before we voted on. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Joanne. Carrie, if you would please take over.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we have the Monomoy Regional School here today to go over their budget for FY 2027. We have community preservation articles that we'll be going over today, and also some airport articles. First will be Monomoy Regional School Assessment for 2027. which is presented at $52,708,097, reflecting a $3.466 million increase, or 7.4% from 2026. Chatham's assessment, which includes debt service, is $11,979,723, an increase of $860,912, a 7.74% over the final FY 2026 assessment. I believe they might be going over some of their capital requests. Borrowing for the replacement of the middle school roof and public education government funds, a PEG request as well. And we have the school business officer, Michael McMillan, here, and Dr. Scott Carpenter, the school superintendent, as well, to present to you their budget.
Okay, welcome, both of you.
Good afternoon. Mike McMillan, School Business Manager.
Scott Carpenter, School Superintendent.
So we're giving you the same presentation that was given to the school committee back in January, and recently we also gave it to the Harwich Select Board so that everybody's on the same page and you know where we are. However, there have been some changes since this budget's presented, but we haven't got them to the school committee yet. So that's literally happening tonight. So we are in a sort of period of flux at the moment, and I'll highlight some of those changes. The biggest one obviously being health insurance, which the rate was set yesterday. So that's going to make a big change to our budget figure, and I'll highlight that as we go. But I just wanted to let you know we are still in a period of sort of the budget changing. And so the first part, and that's this number over here in the right that was highlighted in red. It's highlighted in red, and that Carrie just read out. That's our increase that the school committee approved, and that's our 7%, a little over 7% on FY26. And how that breaks down into your assessment, and that we highlighted down here you have the way the regional agreement works. The assessment is broken down into the operating budget, which is first local minimum contribution, and then the operating assessment. And you have transportation, capital, and debt. Debt's actually down a little bit from last year because of the change to the high school debt payment. And then, but then when you add back in the middle school project debt, then that's what brings the entire budget and assessments to 8.4%, 7% for Harwich, and 7.74% for Chatham. I mean, and I do recognise, just what was in your preamble when you were talking about the impact on taxpayers, that this is significant increase in our budget. And these are really what's driving those increases. We just see across the board increased demands on expenditure. We've seen our property insurance is up. That is one of the things we've actually adjusted, as I'll mention. We brought that down a little bit. But we do see budget requests which are really offset by reductions elsewhere. There's a staffing increases, that's just steps in contractual salary obligations to existing staff. $1.3 million in our health insurance, and that number has been they adjusted now, and that's an increase now of around $800,000 rather than 1.3 million. So that's a reduction of around $400,000 to $500,000, which helps. Utilities, we're just seeing this huge increase in electrical costs and gas. I mean, our gas, we signed a contract with the town of Chatham and the town of Harwich, and our, looking at the history of our gas rate, it's like they've doubled in the last few years, and that's obviously having an impact, as is and similar things happen with electrical costs. And in construction projects, and I'll go into a lot more detail on those in the coming slides. So we have made some adjustments to staffing as part of this budget. So our enrollment is going down, as you know, and we have been able to make some reductions in the number of staff purely because of enrollment. So we're still providing the same levels of service to students. There's just fewer students, so that requires fewer teachers. That's particularly true in Harwich Elementary School, where the pre-K program, that's the special education pre-K program, which is in Harwich Elementary School, that is the numbers that we're seeing enrolling in that program have dropped substantially. And so that's allowing us to make some reductions there. And then other, classroom teachers at Chatham and in the middle school and at the high school. But these are, as I mentioned, these are offset by some strategic adjustments to meet the needs of students. And I've highlighted these on this table. So these are the additions to the budget that the principals have requested and that we've included, and that are offset by reductions in staffing. Some of the, there's a variety of different things, all designed to improve the experience of students in the classroom. There's a few positions. There's the positions at the bottom. We are looking at starting a new innovation career pathway program, which would require hiring a new business teacher, and that's offset by a reduction you saw earlier in the previous slide. And then also, so we have adding a math interventionist, but it's really taking an existing math teacher and changing their role so they're able to provide intervention to support students rather than teaching in the classroom. And we also have a really large internship program, and over 100 students are out in businesses, local businesses in Chatham and Harwich. It's a great experience for our students, but it's run by one person right now, and so we've included here a 0.5 FTE to provide admin support for that person to make sure that we're doing all the necessary paperwork and everything is done, so those students are well supported in those placements. But that's a great program, and that we would like to be able to continue to support it. So as I mentioned, and as Carrie flagged it, we do include a number of capital and maintenance items in this budget. We have a large capital project. We have a large capital plan. We're finding that, we always should be investing in our buildings, but the needs seem to be increasing. Even like at the high school, where that's now reaching sort of over 10 years old, and we're finding equipment there needs to be replaced. And continuing investment is required in Chatham and the middle school and in the Harwich Elementary School as well. So we do have continuing a project to replace flooring in Chatham and the middle school, our network switches for our internet system, so our internet network. Obviously, we rely heavily on the internet in our classrooms, and so maintaining that system is essential. And then we have a couple of items related to lighting at the high school, and those are really safety driven to ensure people can see where they're going and aren't tripping on steps. We're continuing our process of replacing rooftop units at Harwich Elementary School. And then there's just some student classroom and furniture, curtain, and we continue to contribute. We have a capital stabilization fund, which we have been paying into every year.
Joanne, you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before we get much further, you have a new position called restorative justice.
Yeah.
Can you explain that course to me and why this is a new addition?
So the concept of restorative justice is one where you work with students who have had some sort of transgression in the classroom or in the school, and have them find ways to sort of make amends that aren't suspension. So the state actually sort of largely banned school districts from just unilaterally suspending students. And it's not that we can't suspend students, but we need to find modes of making the students that have broken the rules have a learning experience. So the restorative justice program is just somebody who's working with students who have broken either classroom rule or school rule, and working with them before it gets to sort of a suspension situation.
What makes me think that the administration could handle that? The principal, assistant principal, so forth and so on, school nurse?
Well, administrators do that. It was a role that was put in place, so we're really working with teachers building wide, so the restorative justice coordinator at the high school is actually working with teachers to go and help teachers with the skills to have them work with kids before the behaviors get to the point that the student's getting kicked out of the class and sent down. So it's a support. It's definitely supporting the roles that administrators have, but at a high school, particularly with the enrollment that we currently have, if you have administrators that are doing that, then they're also not having time to go work enough with the teachers in terms of improving the teaching and learning that's happening in the classroom. So it's a role that's supporting the the administrators on that side.
So that is a need that keeps growing,
Well,
to have a program like that?
I think when we came, I think societally, when we came out of COVID, there was a lot of sort of dysfunction happening in schools, schools across the country. And, so my hope is that this is a position that in time we can see, like the culture, the culture of the building and the challenges that kids are having diminish over time. But what we've seen is, we've had this in place now. This is the second full year, and just the number of students that are being referred for some sort of disciplinary infraction with this in place has dropped dramatically in the past year.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And the position that has been added is at the middle school to expand the program there.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
The position that's listed here is a position at the middle school to expand the restorative justice program in the middle school as well.
So it was
Thank
effective
you.
at the high school, looking at, sort of growing that same capacity at the middle school.
So this is so a lot of our decisions that we mentioned, particularly in relation to.
Sorry, I know we've spent some time on this, but
Yeah.
it's an interesting topic. So what I just understood you to say is, so we already have one person in this role focused on the high school.
Yeah.
They don't have any capacity that you've looked at capacity for them to be at the middle school for.
So in the current year's budget, we have someone who is a support staff. So it's somebody who doesn't have the depth of training in it. So this is, in the draft that Michael's presenting here, it's to go, to have, to replace a support staff person with somebody who has more training. So the person that we have at the high school is somebody who we've invested a lot of time and training in, so they're sort of paid on a teacher's pay scale. So it's to kind of have the position elevate to, to that level where they're actually going in and working with teachers and students as well.
Okay, great, thank you. Please proceed.
So this is our enrollment projections for next year. So this is based on the average change we see year to year. We then use that as a basis to determine, to project where we might end up next year. And, as I mentioned, we are expecting this reduction that we've seen in enrollment recently to continue, and we expect to be down around 3% overall from this year's enrollment. And, I think some of the reductions were planned are not, they're the effect of 2 or 3 years of these reductions. So you can't necessarily reduce every year due to enrollment, because it depends where the enrollment is, and if it's spread too far throughout the grades, then you're not really able to cut a whole position or to reduce a whole position. But this year, we've seen the cumulative effect of 2 or 3 years of reductions, and that's why we're now able to make some of those reductions in staffing. This slide we can just run over. This is just how the budget had changed since the first draft of it in December, as we had made some changes to reflect increasing demands. This information is a terrible slide, so I apologize, but this is sort of for your reference. This really just shows how the budget is changing by expenditure, so within the budget policy and the regional agreements, it says we have to give you this information in the last 5 years broken down by this category. So this is it, I'm giving it to you. So, however, a much more helpful way, I think, to see it is in this chart, and this looks at the same numbers, but just in these charts. So you can see where the big changes have been. And I mean, I think, so what this chart shows you is it has each of the categories. So we have benefits and fixed charges, capital, central administration costs, debt and interest, maintenance of school plant, operation of school plant, so that includes energy, other school services, programs with other districts, which includes school choice and charter tuition and out-of-district special education placements, and then transportation. And then instruction, which includes all our classroom positions. I have it over in this other little chart because it's on a different scale, because if you put them all on the same scale, you can't really see anything else apart from instruction, because that is so much bigger than everything else. And I think there's a couple of things to take away from this slide. The first is the impact there, the increase in benefits and fixed charges. So this is when we thought the increase might be 15%. The Cape Cod Municipal Health Group voted yesterday, and it's going to be an 8% increase. So that blue bar is going to come down a little. 8% is still a lot. I mean, it's funny because you come away from that meeting and you're like, yes, it's only 8%. But 8% is a huge increase, and that's way above inflation. It's way above our revenue. So you can see that it's starting to squeeze out other parts of our budget, even at those increases. And if it continues for multiple years, that's going to have a long-term impact on what we're able to do.
Barbara?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Michael, to what do you contribute that significant increase in transportation costs? I mean, 140,000 seems huge to me.
So transportation is, so that's our transportation over here on the right, and really, to be honest, transportation is increasing in cost along with everything else. So the cost of drivers, the cost of equipment, and fuel is all up. In addition, we struggle to get vendors to transport students. And so really, we have two types of transportation. Our in-district transportation, so that's just when we're transporting students from home to Monomoy schools. And we have that, we contract with Cape Cod Collaborative to do that, and it helps keep our costs down because they're a non-profit. And then we also have to contract to transport students to out-of-district placements. So that can be if if we're not able to meet a student's needs in district, particularly special education needs, but not only, then we will contract with another school, a private school normally, or a collaborative school, to provide to educate that child, and then we'll have to transport them there. And there aren't a lot of providers of transportation, and often it's specialised transportation that's required. It might be a wheelchair, or it might require additional staffing to go with that student. And so those costs have been going up year after year because there's limited provision, it's specialised care, and we can't not do it. So we try and get quotes, but often there's only one vendor available, and they have so they're able to increase their rates. And it's increasingly difficult for them to hire drivers, so that's seeing driver costs going up. So it's just kind of a knock-on effect of this. Our demand is not going down or increasing, but supply is going down, and that's driving up costs.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Joanne, you had a question? You have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. How much do we lose, or how much do we have to pay for the number of school choice students we have now? And is it balanced by incoming school choice?
Yeah, so we are a net benefiter of school choice. So we have more students coming in through the school choice program to Monomoy than going out to other districts.
And what does each student bring with him or her as far as money?
So financially, it's between $5,000 and $6,000 per student.
So they don't bring the whole charge of what we call,
The per pupil, no.
So
So-
the state set the rate at $5,000
Yeah.
in 1993. And-
I know,
Yeah,
I
and-
helped do that.
and
And
so
it
it's-
seemed like a lot of money, like a good help then.
Yeah, so it's $5,000 plus any
Yeah.
incremental cost if the child has special education
Yeah.
needs for the cost of
It's
those
not nearly
services.
enough now in this economy, but
Right.
anyway, thank you.
It's not, I would say, however, that, the way the superintendent has implemented the school choice program is that whenever we are accepting students, because, we identify the number of school choice places that we'll accept. And then we try to structure it so that we're only accepting students to sort of fill. So if you imagine, if you have a classroom and you have 18 seats in that classroom, if we have a spare seat, we'll allow a school choice position to fill that seat. And then your incremental cost is not the full per pupil cost, because you're not adding a teacher or a principal, and really it's just the instructional supplies. So in that situation, I think we are a net benefiter because the cost of adding that student is not $5,000 on average.
We're very mindful to not bring in so many students that we have to add a teacher. Because if you add a teacher and you have that classroom that you've had to add is because you've let in another 18 children at $5,000 each. The $5,000 doesn't pay for the teacher salary in the benefits package and likely a teaching assistant in that benefits package. So we manage school choice very differently than some other districts.
Thank you.
One other thing, another thing to highlight here is this programs with other districts. So that includes school choice. So that's why when we're paying for students who are going out, and that has been going down year on year. So we're keeping, not only in the actual number, but as a percentage, we're keeping more students in Monomoy rather than going out to other districts, which is great. So that's a win for us. It also includes a charter tuition students, which has actually dropped recently in the last couple of years. And it also includes students who attend out of districts placements for special education reasons I mentioned earlier in regards to transportation. And the reason it's gone down is actually because last year it was a combination of school choice going down, charter tuition going down, and we have an increase in the amount of reimbursement that we're getting from the state to help pay for those school choice. It's not a school choice, the special education placements, because it was so high last year. So, it's a double-edged sword, because I'd rather it wasn't high last year, but given it was so high last year, that's helped offset these costs this year. The final thing I would just say is, almost all the bars are going up. And that's, it used to be like a few years ago, you'd feel like, something would go up a little, but something else would be down, and you'd kind of have this, so you could manage forward. But it just seems right now everything's going up. All our costs are increasing, supplies and salaries and contract services. And I think that's why our percentage increase is so high. And then this is just some more summary information around, our estimates for what we expect enrollment to be. As I said, we're expecting that to go down. We do have built in this reduction in our staff FTE. This is a forecast for our foundation enrollment, which is also going down. And that's all the students who live in either town and attend any public school, not just Monomoy. And then we have all total expenditure. That includes a non-general fund, so that includes grants. And we've seen that going down. So at the moment, one question we've been asked is what we're expecting for federal grants, because obviously that's a big portion of the revenue we receive to help offset our costs. And there's been a lot of uncertainty around federal grants in the last couple of years. So at the moment, we're sort of assumed that we're going to continue receiving the grants that we have received in the last few years, and we'll just keep watching to see what happens. The biggest issue for us really would be, so we have two main grants. One is the title grants, which is to improve instruction in the classroom, and the other one is special education related. So if the special education, that's IDEA or 240, you hear that being spoken about sometimes, but if that grant was cut, that would be really hard for us to accommodate, because a lot of the services that are provided and paid for through that grant are legally required, it's related to students' education plans. And so we would have to continue providing those services legally, even if the funds went away for it. So for now, we're just assuming they're going to keep coming.
Michael, are some of these grants, are they federal funds being passed through the state?
Yeah, they all are, yeah.
They all are.
They're all passed through the state, yeah.
So the decline, to put it mildly, in the federal Department of Education might affect that?
Yeah, that's our worry.
To put it mildly?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Yes, John, please.
Staying on the grant question, have you modeled what happens?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I mean, a little bit. It depends. It's really hard to tell because if it's a huge cut, then it'll be all bets will be off. We'll have to really look at all our options in order to continue to provide services. We know that some reductions we'll be able to accommodate by just reducing the services that are provided using those grants. It really depends on the scale and the nature of the cuts and which grants are cut. So we have done some exploratory work internally. Yes, I guess is the short answer.
Good.
The numbers that are presented in our packet and we're reviewing today assume the grants continue.
Assume the grants continue, yeah.
Are those grants reimbursements, or do you get those at the top of a given year?
Get them, well, so they're reimbursements in that you get approved, so you, at the start of the year, you apply to the state and they are, once it's awarded, then you know, so we say, for example, we submit a grant application that says we're gonna, you know, pay for this contract services, and they approve it, and then once you pay for the contract services, you request the state and you get reimbursed for it. So once you have confirmation of your award, you're good to go and you can spend that money. So we'll know, you know, we will know before we spend the money if we're getting it.
That's helpful.
What percentage of the overall budget is derived from these grants, the two federal bins you described?
I would say it's about, I want to say about 2% of our total expenditure.
Okay.
And then the last couple of rows there are the assessments, which are also modelled here, which is why I just skipped over them. So this is a slightly complicated chart, but if you start with the FY20 and 21, so this is basically the town of Chatham's assessment is in blue, and the town of Harwich's assessment is in blue, and the town of Chatham's is in orange. And for the first few years, it's straightforward, and you can see how they were changing. Chatham actually went down slightly. And then going forward from FY23, we have both the old methodology, because this is when we changed methodology, so you still have in the blue and the green, the blue and the orange is the old methodology, and in this sort of, I don't know what colour you would call that, burnt red and brown is the new methodology. And so that was just, you know, the purpose is just to see the impact of the change in the regional agreement on assessments going forward. And so that's when we said that elementary schools would be assessed to each town, so Chatham pays for the Chatham Elementary School, and Harwich pays for Harwich Elementary School, and that's had a significant impact on the budget. And it was originally around $700,000, and that impact has grown as costs, you know, for a number of reasons, including costs at Chatham Elementary School increasing above trend. So you can just see the ongoing impact of that change to the regional agreement, a difference of almost $1.5 million between the two.
Go ahead, John.
So between the two I looked at it, and between the two methodologies for Chatham taxpayers, there's about $1.5 million difference between the two. Is it fair to say that's because we're carrying the elementary school, and the cost of the elementary school is driving a big portion of that?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's really, both towns are paying for their own elementary school, and it's really, you know, we could say the premium for having an elementary school that is so small. It's just purely sort of an economy of scale. Chatham Elementary, I think next year will only have 2 grade levels that will have more than 1 classroom at each grade level. You know, so when we started 13 years ago, Chatham Elementary had 3 classrooms every grade level, and it's gotten, you know, to the point that's almost 1/3 the size that it was 13 years ago. Harwich Elementary has shrunk. You know, both towns are losing enrollment, but it's just Harwich Elementary now has about 4 sections per grade level instead of what once was 6 sections per grade level. So they've both gotten smaller. It's just, you know, one's gotten about 2/3 smaller and the other's gotten about 1/3 smaller.
So just a couple more slides. So when we presented this last time, we were still some numbers we didn't know yet. So that, as I mentioned a couple of times now, health insurance is now at 8%. We have a increasing number of retirees as well happening. Because we're a relatively young district, we're still adding to our retiree pool. So we're adding the number of retirees, and so that's increasing above a percentage increase in the rates. So our overall increase in health insurance is slightly above, or will be above, the 8% increase in rates. Property insurance, we're now at a 10% increase. We've obviously have all the collective bargaining agreements currently are in place, and we have agreed upon cost of living increases. Our administrators and non-union staff get the same increase as our teacher contract. Staffing, I have included some retirements, estimated retirement and turnover savings. And then we do have, we mentioned the charter school and school choice enrollment, revenue and expenditure. We have some estimates based on that, and if those estimates are improved, we'll update the figures as we go. State aid, so we do have the state aid, and I'll go into that in a moment now. Excess and deficiency, we have reduced as. So excess and deficiency, that's the amount of money we receive. That's a bit like town's free cash. So we have a similar fund, it's basically what money we have left over, and every year we use a portion of that to offset the assessments. So last year we used $1 million. This year we're using $800,000.
Go ahead, Joanne.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm sorry to take up so much of your time. There's so much to cover here.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons I ask, this is all, a lot of this is out of our hands.
Yeah.
The insurance, and I guess that's the reason I chose the adding of a new staff member with the insurance, the health insurance benefits and all the benefits.
Yeah.
So it makes me wonder if you're trying to keep your budget as low as possible when there's so many factors you can't control. That's one you can control, and why not? Why wouldn't you work with this administrative staff you have? But I'm not questioning that anyway. That was just a question in my mind. Thank you.
There'll be a lot more on that when we get to the end of the presentation. I don't want to spoil the punchline yet.
And so at a minimum local contribution, which is we now have those figures, and that's part of the state aid number. So that's the end of the slides that you received. However, I've added a couple of slides where I've updated those figures just for your information. So we have the budget number we have reduced. So with the updated information we have on health insurance and a couple other smaller things, but primarily health insurance is allowing us to reduce $489,000 off of the budget we just presented. And so that means the overall increase from FY26 will be just over 6% instead of 7.04. So these numbers haven't actually, these haven't been approved by school committee yet. So these are literally like hot off the press. So we just wanted you to have the kind of most up-to-date information. And when we will go to school committee, and I'm sure we're going, and we'll talk about in a moment, what's going to happen next. But we will have, once we finalize this number and we have an updated number approved by school committee, we'll share that with Carrie, and we can come back and give you an update on what else, if anything else, has changed. So the other things, we did get the state numbers back, and they were unfortunately not super helpful. The Chapter 70 was slightly below what I'd estimated it to be. It was $20,000 lower than we were expecting. So it's now an overall increase of 3.95%. Transportation is down. We receive reimbursement from the state for some transportation costs. That was lower than we'd expected. Excess and deficiency, that's not changed, but that is $200,000 less than it was in FY26, because the reserve funds you can only use once. So we increased it to $1 million last year, and we have less to draw in this year, and so we reduced the amount we're drawing. And then the assessments would also be down, really due to the health insurance change. We see this reduction in Harwich's assessment of $250,000 and Chatham's of almost $90,000. And that gets those percentage changes to 7.7% or almost 7%.
Michael, a quick question on the state grant, or
Yeah.
not the grant, the state
Chapter 17,
reimbursement
yeah.
for in-placement of school choice students. Is there any action to try to increase the amount that's paid?
Well, I mean, it's all based on enrollment, and as our enrollment's going, so there's a couple of, it's all enrollment. I mean, and it is to do with the demographics of your enrollment as well. So low-income students and special education students and English learner students all attract a slightly higher reimbursement rate or funding rate. But overall, because our enrollment is going down, every year when they recalculate our aid, it's less than it was the year before. And there's a provision called a hold harmless provision that means they just sort of fund us at the same level as the year before, because they don't want it to be less, and then they give us an extra per pupil allowance of like $70 a student. So that's the form. So the biggest problem for us is our enrollment is going down. So every year when they do that calculation again, that's why the number comes down. You know, there is a lot of, you know, at the state level, there's pressure, you know, to try and increase money for districts, but it's all coming from the same state budget, and there's a lot of pressure on the state budget from a number of places. And they did have a Student Opportunity Act recently where they did increase state funding for schools, but a lot of it went to schools with really high low income, and so we really didn't see much of that at all.
Thank you.
So this is where we're at, and as you can imagine, this particularly for Harwich, the town of Harwich shared with us their budget for the town, and right now they're carrying for the schools an assessment increase of 4.71 or 4.7%. So, you know, where we're at right now, so we've done our budget and we've sort of started chatting with both towns, and the town of Harwich have said there's this huge gap between what you're asking for and what we are able to fund. And the size of that gap is, that's what this slide tries to show. So I've got the top table is really the assessments where we are right now with assessments. This is that assessment I just outlined. The increase over FY26, a percentage increase. But that 4.7% number that we got from the town of Harwich in this table below, if we back into that, that shows in the difference between, you know, because of the way the regional agreement works, it's hard for us, it's not simple for us we can't just cut Harwich's assessment. We're going to have to cut the budget and let that all flow through, and that will affect both towns' assessments. And so if we kind of go through that process in order to get to a 4.7% increase for Harwich means, you know, would mean a reduction to then Chatham's assessment as well, and the total decrease in our budget would be around $1.2 million.
And I think part of the punchline here is, you know, the budget that we presented with the school committee and the school committee voted on is a reduced staff level service budget. To go in and cut out, you know, $1.2 million from a school district budget that is so personnel intensive will not be a level service budget. And, you know, so tonight when we're doing our, you know, so tonight's the annual budget hearing, and part of the conversation, you know, I'll have is just how tenuous it is to go keep families with you in a climate of intense school choice competition, if you're having to potentially touch programs, you know, so we have behind the scenes been spending a lot of time with the administration looking at where in the budget, you know, can we potentially cut, and you know, like looking at, you know, some of the capital items that Michael was showing and saying, okay, what capital items can we potentially hold off on? What technology items can we hold off on? You know, do we potentially touch more reserves? But at the end of the day, we still have to go look at, what staffing positions could we potentially touch that doesn't, that won't impact, the programs that, that students and families feel so near and dear to them. So we'll have to back into that number, we'll likely have to look at restructuring the administration and doing cuts at central office, doing some other, staff reductions, looking at the principal wish list, the requests the principals have, and saying, okay, what are the ones that are most important, in terms of instruction, intervention, or the strategic plan to fund, and defer some of the others, defer the capital projects, just say, okay, which ones are really safety related? The IT projects, there's one project that is really crucial in terms of network security and reliability, and then additional resources. But I fully understand that everything in this column, in that column, is just kicking a can down, down the road. So next Thursday, when we go to Harwich's Finance Committee, the conversation that Michael and I will have is, like, as a town, do you at some point say, okay, we don't want to kick this can completely down the road, which is just creating just a big fiscal cliff looming out there? Do you, package, for the taxpayers and voters and, in Harwich, here's this list of, of things that are in that budget that, that are important. They don't, they're ones that aren't staffing, so they're things that would be more, we'll call them one-time costs. But do you package those and look at, do you have some sort of override to support that piece of a school district budget? But, but my worry becomes, that 4.7, if that's what Harwich's maximum is significantly off of what we could say is level services. And, and that's really, I think, the first time in the 13 years that we've been Monomoy that we were really kind of bumping up against, that impact to level services.
I think it's worth just saying we don't know for sure how big the gap's going to be. So we're just at the start of the conversation. We hope it won't be that large.
Eric?
I'm sure they're going to come looking for something from us too, but that's not really the reason I've chimed in. So the 4.7, did they give some indication of how they came up with that number, or was it just what they think they can afford and still fund the rest of their budget?
So I at least when I looked at the interim town manager's January 12th, sort of budget presentation and recommendations that to the select board, it looks like that's what the town of Harwich's overall wherewithal. So on the town side of the budget, it was going up by 4.7%, and use that same number for the school district, for the school district increase. So it seems, at least, from my initial look, that's what they see as their wherewithal for what they can sustain as an increase.
Joanne, you had a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And your job is to present what you think is best for your school system. On the other hand, when we look at the whole budget, we have to think about what can our taxpayers pay? And if we ask more than they can afford to pay, then we have to create programs for those who can't afford to pay what we've set as our tax rate. So that's our big decision to make and our problem. And your problem is to present the best you can for our school children.
And that's what we tried to do. So, Michael spent the better part of the last hour
That's obvious. It's very well done.
Level service. And I'm the one that's, the bearer of the bad news that, that to back into a 4.7 means that we have to be really strategic about where do you go in and cut or, defer cost to make sure that the students are getting what they need and that the families are getting the services that they need from the school district.
Go ahead, Tracy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I'm confused on some of the mechanics here. I mean, for Harwich to say that they're hard and fast on 4.7 when they have the ability to increase their tax rate to compensate for what their budget needs to be. Are they saying that they are incapable of raising their tax rate to meet the needs? And what does that mean? Where does that leave us in terms of our commitment to each other as a school district? Is one bound by another's limitations? And the only choice we then have is to make up the difference or cut it the same. Is there some language to which we're connected with that? And has this happened before where one town is refusing to discuss meeting the needs of the requested budget?
I would say they haven't refused to discuss. I mean, Michael and I was it Monday or Tuesday, presented at the Harwich Select Board meeting and, presented the budget, and I just chimed in at the end because it went over really well for the Select Board. But I said, do understand, and this was before the health insurance numbers came in, I said, do understand, this is 1.5 million above your number, and with health insurance numbers coming in more favorably, it's down to 1.2. But, but it's still, magical thinking that I can go land this plane and have it and look people in the eye and say, oh yeah, this is still level services. So it's trying to do the best to have the services as, covered as best we can. But we will have to go and look at, what sort of programs might or what sort of staffing might need to get reduced and try to have it not impact programs and kids.
Carrie and then Barbara.
So as far as budgets go, there is a maximum levy that you can tax to without going for an override. And I think that's what a lot of communities are facing with the increases in their budgets, because we can only tax up to a certain amount of money unless it's a Prop 2.5, meaning a borrowing that gets approved as Prop 2.5, a capital exclusion that gets approved, and this is above your levy. So you have borrowings that you can have above your levy, you can have capital exclusions above your levy, and then there's overrides. And overrides seem to be a common thing now because we're bound to that Prop 2.5 of a maximum levy, and the budgets are growing faster than what the town's growth is growing. So I think that's part of the reason for Harwich in saying this is what we can afford without having to go for an override. Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So if I'm understanding, Harwich has said 4.7, but that isn't necessarily hard and fast. Like, you're speaking to the Harwich Finance Committee tomorrow night, right?
Next Thursday.
Next Thursday, so maybe you can convince them to have some sway with the Select Board, right?
We can hope.
Thanks.
And presumably, the regional agreement says something about an irreconcilable difference, if it comes to that. I don't mean to ask you to speak to it necessarily.
One of the things that I will be sharing tonight at our school committee meeting, I'll be actually doing a little forward before Michael's budget hearing to really talk about some of the great successes that the school district has had over the 13 years that I've been there, because this will be my last budget hearing, for us. And I think one of the things that we can be really proud of as a district is when I came here 13 years ago, there were so many children that were leaving our town schools, both in Chatham and in Harwich, for charter schools and for school districts elsewhere. And we have essentially seen no change in the loss to charter schools. And one might say, well, that's not a huge improvement, but what has changed since regionalization is that Sturgis doubled its size from 425 students to 850, and Lighthouse Charter School moved into East Harwich. And despite that happening, we've seen slightly fewer kids heading off to charter than when regionalization was being contemplated. When you look at the finances that we've saved, by not heading off to charter schools, like we have a mere fraction, a third of the kids head off to charter from Monomoy compared to either of the two school districts on each side of us. And that saves $2 million is staying with us here. But when parents are worried about their schools, they make decisions for their kids, it doesn't take much for families to go and say, okay, we're going to go head elsewhere. The same thing with school choice to other districts. It was, there was close to 1 in 5 kids were heading off to to other school districts, and that has dropped by 3/4. So those again, that's even at $5,000 a piece, that's over $1.2 million that's staying with us rather than heading off to other districts. And I think it's not just a financial thing. At the end of the day, it's just a town. I think families really, there's a lot more pride in the local schools than I think existed when we started, and we want to keep that going and not see us go backwards and have to try to claw families back.
Thank you, Scott. Stephen, you have your hand up online.
I do. Thanks, Andy. I wonder if there's merit in the committee taking a vote in support, or I guess in support of the incremental 1.2. If we just formally want to go on the record, so it can be noted to our counterparts in Harwich and to the Harwich Select Board and the Harwich Town Manager that as far as the Chatham Finance Committee is concerned, there's a greater, longer-term risk to backsliding, given kind of all the accomplishments that Scott and Michael just referenced. Now, I'll defer to you and your role as acting chair, but.
Committee members, what do you feel like doing, or do you want to hear the rest of
I'm inclined.
Scott's?
I'm inclined to agree with Stephen that to send a message along with them as they go to present to Harwich that the Chatham Finance Committee, let them know whether or not the Chatham Finance Committee is on board with what they're proposing.
Barbara, you're nodding. Are you making a motion to that effect?
Yes, I move that the Chatham Finance Committee, is it preliminary, should I say?
I presume so. Stephen has his hand up again. Maybe he wants to clarify.
I failed to lower it from my previous rates, but I would second Tracy's motion.
I guess I didn't really complete it, so I'm just going to say preliminary approval of the Monomoy Regional School District's budget.
Sounds pretty fair. Eric?
So just some comments on the motion. So I'm supportive of sending a message with these gentlemen to their other discussions. I think we can do that without the language that you just used as far as, because I think there's a lot to be discussed. I think regardless, there's going to be some changes. I mean, I don't think that they're going to show up and they say Chatham Finance Committee thinks it's great and everyone's just going to run and say that's good. So I think we need to be cautious on how we structure the motion, that indicates, from my opinion, our support of the concept and the support of a level funding of, a level services concept. But I think the way that I heard your motion, it's kind of supporting what we have in front of us now, which I'm not even sure I do completely. So
Yes, I agree. I was reaching a bit for what the verbiage should be.
Tracy, why don't you just, withdraw your motion, and with Stevens.
I withdraw the motion.
I'm going to let John or Eric come up with the,
I'm not going to make a motion, but actually, I'd like to ask Carrie or someone else who can sort of crystal ball what's going to happen between now and town meeting. Who ultimately, is this going to be a discussion at the select board levels before we end up voting at town meeting?
Yes, so we'll be going back to the Harwich Select Board, and we have as yet to go to the Chatham Select Board.
And then the district sort of votes on the final budget on March 12th. I mean, it doesn't mean it can't change after that, but that's supposed to be, our final approved budget.
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys have done a great job describing, the acceleration of our structural budget, right?
Yeah.
And the complications, the limitations that you have to make moves. I think this is part of the problem that both of our communities in the broader county are dealing with.
Yeah.
This isn't unique. Our community made a significant investment in the infrastructure and in moving towards regionalization. There's clearly more problems on the horizon. I did a little bit of modeling and thinking about if this current rate of growth in terms of expense continues, how quickly we're going to fall off that cliff
Yeah.
you referenced. Our community can probably absorb a 3 to 5% increase year over year. But right now, this is outpacing our tax revenues and so on and so forth. So, if we keep seeing 7%,
Yeah.
plus start thinking about capital investment and maintenance of our infrastructure, that compounds on the debt service side too. So,
Yep.
but in theory, I'm supportive of saying, at least as one member of the Finance Committee, we've received this news. We're not happy with it, but, to say the least, but we really hope that our counterparts in the region can find a way for us to move forward another year. And I would, as a taxpayer in Chatham, I would really want to see my community in Harwich sit down and figure out some other things that can be done to offset these costs.
Stephen? Stephen, your hand is, okay.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. I wonder if, acknowledging the points that Eric and John have made, if a motion to have a best efforts to mitigate the adverse consequences of any contemplated budget cuts would be more palatable to the committee, rather than just a flat de facto, bring the 1.2 back.
Joanne, you have something to say?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. This is a preliminary budget that we're hearing. It hasn't gone before the Finance Committee in Harwich or the Selectmen. I don't think it's up to us to tell the Selectmen of Harwich or the Finance Committee of Harwich what to do about their own budget. So I'm not going to vote for this because I'm waiting to see what the final budget presentation is. And I think it's confusing for us to try and tell the other town what to do, and I think it's confusing for our taxpayers to vote on something that may not be presented 3 weeks from now. So whatever this motion is, I'm against it.
Tracy?
Well, there's currently no motion.
Right.
But if someone were to put a motion forward, perhaps language of more like the Chatham Finance Committee supports the idea of level services.
I don't have a problem with that. Anybody else?
Or not at all.
Is there a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Okay, good. Any further discussion? We support the idea of level services. All right, hearing none, those in favor of that motion say aye. All right, I have to do a roll call. I keep forgetting that bureaucratic necessity. Okay. What was it?
That doesn't bind us to saying we support a number or not, just the concept, right?
Correct, correct. So the idea that we're supporting a level services budget, but the final number is still to come. Yes, John?
Before you call the roll, if I could ask one more question. Today, I did my homework based on the January numbers, came in with some ideas. Today, you came in and presented new numbers hot off the press that made things slightly better.
Yeah.
Do you anticipate anything else happening between now and our town meetings that could, again, make things slightly better? Or do you see things potentially making them worse?
No, I don't think it'll make them worse. I think it might get slightly better.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so I'll go ahead and call on the roll. Stephen Daniel,
I'm supportive.
Joanne Sprague,
No.
okay. Barbara Madison,
Yes.
John Papalardo,
Yes.
Kristen Andres,
Yes.
Tracy Shields,
Yes.
Tommy Doan. Tommy, you still there? You're on mute. Oh, maybe not. All right. Eric Whiteley?
Yes.
All right, unless Tommy turns on his mic, we'll count him as a abstain. Okay. All right. So the motion, and chair votes aye. The motion prevails. It's not a very strong or factual thing you can do, but, you know.
I'm taking it to the bank.
If you choose to, there's no reason in the world you can't pass that message along to other people, whoever they may be.
Well, we appreciate your support.
Yeah, thank you. I have two other articles Carrie just mentioned. I don't have slides on it, but maybe I can speak to them quickly.
Please.
One is the replacement of the roof at the middle school. So we have, as you know, currently have a project going to replace the siding. And we have also been accepted into the Massachusetts School Building Authority's program for replacing the roof. So that is, there's basically two phases for that. The first is it's called the feasibility study. It's the design. And we've completed the first phase, and that's been submitted to the MSBA's board, who's meeting in a week and a half, and then to approve that design. And then we move into construction. So the total project, I'm sorry, I don't have the numbers right here, but it's around $11.8 million is the total project budget. And the reimbursement from the MSBA to the district would be around and some change million. We're leaving the total cost to the district of around $8 million, but it's not final yet, and there's a long way to go until we get the construction. But in theory, that's the maximum grant from the MSBA, and hopefully the maximum for the project, because it does include a contingency and so on. So our phase now is that we will be submitting, but we can't move forward with the project until we have approval to borrow the funds, the funds to pay for it. So we get the MSBA approval, and then hopefully go to a town meeting in the spring to get approval for the district to borrow the funds to do that project. And once, if accepted, so the cost of borrowing would be reflected in the assessment, so it's not additional costs. It will be included in those figures you see. At the moment, there's not, the project won't start until April of next year, so a year and a couple of months from now, and the first debt payments won't really hit us until FY28. But when they do, you'll see it in the assessment, so it's not in addition to what we've already presented. But we just need your approval and town meeting's approval to borrow the funds, to literally just borrow the funds. So that's one.
So I don't see an article in front of us.
We don't have the article, so
We don't have an article yet. Still needs to go to
it's going to school committee tonight.
Right.
And then it'll come to you.
Okay. And a capital planning committee for both towns. Is that right?
Yes, I think so.
What was that?
We don't have a capital planning committee,
Okay.
but it's you guys and the select board.
Okay, we'll come back. That's fine.
And then the other one is we have a TV studio at the high school, and occasionally we request funds from the PEG cable access fund to help offset those costs. And we have a equipment refreshment project, so we're going to request a total of $60,000. So I think it breaks down to like $20,000 roughly from the Chatham. But, you know, I just want, since we're here, I just thought I'd give you an overview. That's also going to school committee tonight, and then I'll send it to Carrie with the details, and we can come back and discuss.
Yep, go ahead.
Just for clarification
Yeah.
for everyone, so the way these kind of projects are apportioned between the towns, could you just define that, please?
So this roof project, as I say, will be part of the budget, and it'll be assessed as part of the debt within the project, which is based on a 3-year foundation enrollment average. So basically, the share between the two towns is determined by the share of the total foundation enrollment of the two towns, and it works out around 72 to 28 or 73, you know, in that neighbourhood to Harwich, and 25 to 26, 27 to Chatham.
And the roof project will get state funding to help
Yeah.
offset a little over a third of the project.
And the way the regional agreement works is it's the amount paid by each town is recalculated every year, updated with the new foundation enrollment numbers. Then the PEG cable access funds are a little different because it's not part of the budget. You know, the town has a separate fund for that, and we use there's kind of it's not been very consistent, but we're using essentially if those items were in the budget, the way they'd be assessed, that's how we're assessing it. So most of it is high school operating, so that's district operating. And again, it's foundation enrollment again, but this time it's just 5 through 12, not the whole grade, because it's at the high school.
Okay, thank you, Mark. John?
I had 2 quick questions, if I could. It's probably not the right term, but I think it gets to the point. What's our current vacancy in the regional school system? How many more students could we serve in the infrastructure we have?
That's a very loaded question.
I would say it depends on where in the system. So I would say we have a capacity that we could probably serve 500 additional students, but they'd really need to come in at the lower grade levels. So the high school is really running at capacity right now. It's our lower grade levels. When I was talking earlier about Chatham Elementary School having once had 3 grades per grade level, kindergarten through 4th grade, and now largely having 1, and Harwich having 6 per grade level, and now having 4. There's empty space there. There's empty space at the middle school. The high school, so the bubble, I believe was like Booker's graduating class would have been sort of like that bubble year of children. So 2 year, last year was sort of like the last large graduating class, and every class behind it is a little smaller and a little smaller and a little smaller. But and those smaller levels are going to be making their way in the next 10 years up to the high school. So it'll get, the high school will have capacity too in the future.
And you can see that in this chart that I just put up, which is our forecast for enrollment next year. But you can see grade 12 is 147 in that class. But if you go back, even grade 7 is 120. So when those 147 kids leave, they're replaced by just 120.
Yeah, I saw that. It just wasn't clear to me if we were totally optimized, how many more students we could educate in the system. So it's 400 to 500, but not, it's spread throughout, sure.
And again, the challenges are if, kids that are coming in through school choice, you can't fill those classrooms and keep down costs. Our Nauset has a different approach where they will fill classrooms but their per pupil, ends up being, $3,000 more because you're having to go make up for all of the, all the students that are, that are coming in. So it's there's space, there's space in the buildings. But, it's just kind of a question on will the young families, on Cape Cod rebound? And at least, there's been a 3-decade-long trend across Cape Cod that's been going only down. And I think with the exception, Yarmouth at the moment seems to be growing, and DY is actually seeing an increase in its enrollment.
I think we have a couple other committees dealing with that question here.
Sure we do. All right, I guess that's probably it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
As always.
I really appreciate it.
Carrie, I believe the Community Preservation Act articles are coming up.
Yep, thank you very much. We have Community Preservation Committee articles to review. There are currently 13, there were 13 applications. The Community Preservation, yeah.
Stephen, you've
has
got your
something.
hand up. Is there,
Yeah, just I want to make a quick observation relative to Joanne's initial comments. Just wanted to be clear that if I'm not mistaken, I think Carrie said on Tuesday that the funding for the software update was going to be to the use of free cash, not through the tax levy. Carrie, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Thank you, Stephen. The financial management system is using free cash to fund that and being offset by any grants that we received that we applied for, not using the tax levy.
Okay, I just thought that was important to clarify.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I appreciate
thanks,
that.
Carrie. Thanks, Stephen.
I don't know how to make.
All right, Gary, welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Gary Tennyson, the chair of the Chatham Community Preservation Committee. As Carrie said, we received 13 applications this year for CPA funding. The committee felt that all 13 were worthy projects, but they totaled about 3.3 million, and the funds we had available were 2.6 million, roughly. And so what we wound up doing was we were able to reduce the amount that we were recommending for 3 of those in order to get all 13 projects funded to some degree within our budget. So I think what I'll do is go through this table. I don't think the packet you have is quite in the same order, so you may have to shuffle around a little bit to see the actual warrant articles. But this table does show the ones that were debated the most and where we made some of the changes. So I think it's prudent to take them in the order that they appear here. The first one is a recommendation to provide $750,000 to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. As I think you all know, the Chatham CPA has been the largest funder to the trust fund, and over the past several years, we've provided roughly $500,000 each year to the trust fund. Usually those funds have been general support to the trust fund that they could use in any way, and they've primarily used it to purchase land that is currently being developed for affordable housing. This year, the fund in their application indicated that the funds would primarily be used to support or to help subsidize the home ownership housing that's being developed at Stepping Stone. And the committee was very supportive of that, so we actually earmarked our $750,000 to be used for the project at Stepping Stone, and necessarily the affordable units at Stepping Stone. Okay. Do you want to take how are you going to handle this? Do you want to take some kind of a vote on each one, or?
Not seeing anybody springing up question except perhaps Stephen. Stephen, your hand is still up.
Sorry, that was inadvertent. But unless, I mean, the only thought I would have is, unless people object, I would think that these are largely not terribly controversial. So do we move the whole slate? I'll defer to you, Andy. We vote on them independently.
I,
I think he's saying to wait until we hear them all and then vote as a slate.
yeah, I think
That's
that,
how
I
I
think.
understood his comment.
That makes sense. Please, Barbara, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Gary, do you know off the top of your head how many units are going to be on the Stepping Stones project and how many of those are going to be affordable?
I think it's debatable whether they're going to be 12 or 14. And I think it's 4 that are going to be affordable. So it's not a majority. It's, I
that's correct.
think it is, I think it is 4 that are designated to be affordable.
And do we know how much they're going to cost?
I think it's, I'm just trying to recall, listening to the presentation. Do you know, Gary?
There was a presentation on Tuesday, and the cost did vary between the units, because there was a couple of units that were only one bedroom that I believe cost like, I think it was around 350, 400,000. And then there was a couple of 2-bedroom units and 3-bedroom units. The costs were relatively, obviously attainable, but they're, oh God, I can't exactly remember. I'm trying to think exactly how much they cost, and I wish I had it in front of me. I'll look for it, and I'll get back to you.
I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just wondering how far the 750 is going to go on those 4
So they're going to be using attainable housing funds mostly to fund the project, and then there'll be offsets from the affordable housing as well that they'll pay for.
Okay.
And they have, I think it's 3.5 million in the trust fund currently. So this is adding to that.
Okay.
But most of that 3.5, I think, is also CPA funding, so would still have the affordable restriction associated with it.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, Gary. I think consistent with Stephen's suggestion, why don't we just keep going, and I think next is the ARC.
Yes, so the next one is, this application actually came to us from the Housing Assistance Corporation, and they're proposing to develop a new assistance resource center on West Main Street in Hyannis that's going to serve the whole Cape and the islands. It's basically a homeless shelter, and they're going to convert an office building, actually the office building that they had been using, and that I think it's 3 other nonprofit organizations had been using, into a homeless shelter. The total cost of the project is $6 million. They've gotten, I think it's $3.5 million from the state to purchase the property and the building, and they're seeking $100,000 from each of the CPAs on the 15 towns on the Cape. So they've gone to all of the 15 towns. So far, I tried to look it up, and Sandwich, I know, has approved their $100,000. The only other one I could find was that Orleans did not approve their contribution. Most of the other ones have it under consideration. I think Harwich actually meets today, their CPC, and will decide. Anyways, our committee felt this was a worthwhile regional project that we ought to contribute to, and recommended approval of the $100,000 contribution from Chatham.
Thank you, Gary. One question I have, is this a one-time expenditure, or is there some expectation of continuing funding?
No, I believe it would be a one-time, because it's the cost of converting an office building
That's-
into a homeless shelter.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Others? Go ahead, John.
Nothing to do with the subject matter. Just curious, we can use Chatham funds for construction of properties in other towns?
Yes, we've done that a number of times. So we've contributed
Oh, in
to
Orleans, right?
the affordable housing in Brewster, in Dennis, and in Orleans, which is rather upsetting that Orleans decided not to support anything outside of Orleans.
Who knows? Cooperation may collapse. Okay, others? Go ahead. Kristen.
Not specific to this article, but, and I didn't see it here real quickly. Do you have totals on what are set aside currently in each of the account, for each of the various interests? I'm wondering in particular what's in the open space account right now versus the others.
Yeah, well, the situation that we've had for a number of years is that we've had more in the open space reserve account than we've received applications to put a demand on that reserved account. That's true this year as well. We had, I think it was 418,000, thank you, Megan, in the open reserve account, and it was, I think, 300 and some thousand in the application. So we'll actually wind up this year with funding in the open space, still having funding in the open space reserve account that can only be used for open space and recreation. The other two, historical and affordable housing, we've tended to have more applications than we have funds available for.
Thank you.
Thanks. Let's see, Lower Cape Housing Institute is next.
Yes, the Lower Cape Housing Institute, this is a funding that we've recommended every 2 years. This is an organization that assists the towns in the Lower Cape, Upper and Lower Cape, with their affordable housing interests. So they provide training, they provide advice, they provide a regional approach. And the committee members that we have who work on affordable housing say that we get more than our money's worth from this $20,000 investment.
Okay, all right, I guess might as keep going.
Okay. So now we're getting into two of the ones where we've decided to make a recommendation of a lesser amount. They're both from Penrose, and they're for the affordable housing projects in Chatham. The first one on Meeting House Road, the second one the Main Street affordable housing projects. When the committee debated this, as I said, we knew we weren't going to have sufficient funds to support all of the applications. We felt that these were two of the ones where our funding really wasn't a critical component of the total cost. Our funding is really more of a symbol, a demonstration that there is strong local support for these projects. And in addition to that, that would help Penrose in their applications to the state for the subsidies that they can get from the state and federal government, which is a competitive process. And so they argue that local support is very important. Penrose is also going to our neighboring communities and requesting funds from their CPAs for our affordable housing, as they did previously when they came to us. And so we felt that if Chatham didn't make a contribution, it would be hard for them to argue that neighboring towns should. At the same time, since we didn't have enough money to cover all these projects, we felt that we should provide a total of $500,000 to the two projects. And jumping a little bit ahead, we decided to provide 400,000, recommend 400,000 for the Main Street project, since that's more of a fait accompli that's moving forward. There's still considerable discussion about Meeting House Road. And so the final decision was to provide, or to recommend 400,000 for the affordable housing project on Main Street, and $100,001 for the Meeting House Road project. I can explain why that's $1 if you would like.
Okay.
Now, the reality is, we actually took a vote on Meeting House Road first at 100,000, and it lost. It lost 3-6, but some of those 6 thought 100,000 was too much, and some of the 6 thought 100,000 was too little. And then when we came back to it, after we put 400,000 into Main Street, some of the committee felt we shouldn't undo a vote that we had previously taken, so we took a vote on a different amount, 100,001, and recommended that.
Okay, any questions on either of these, I'd say? No? Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Oh, Carrie, I'm sorry.
I want to go back to the affordable housing. I got some information that I found, so that way it doesn't, so we're all clear. It's affordable and attainable. The affordable housing is 25% of the project and 75% is attainable. There's 14 units, possibly 12, but as proposed was 14 units. There are 2 one-bedrooms, 8 two-bedrooms, and 4 three-bedrooms. The percentages are 80% AMI for 4 units, 120% AMI for 4 units, and 150% AMI for 6 units. The cost differs between the AMIs, so I don't know if you want me to go through the breakdown, but a one-bedroom for an 80% AMI is $220,000, and then a 3-bedroom is $290,000. And then I won't go into all the details, but then there's 120% AMI, which a 1-bedroom would be $410,000. A 3-bedroom would cost $520,000. And 150 AMI, a 1-bedroom would be $520,000, and a 3-bedroom would be $665,000. And these are just estimates, but that we received from HAC. I'll send this to you,
Okay, thanks.
so that way you have it.
So did I understand that the 750 can go to any of those or only to the attainables?
Only to the affordable.
Only to the affordable,
affordables.
yep. The attainable is being paid out of we have another trust fund for that.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
We had a question, Brian? Please take the mic, identify yourself.
Brian Phillips, 374 Orleans Road. So I attended all the ZBA meetings for the Penrose projects, and the more I learned about them, the more I kind of learned that there's going to be a lot of unintended consequences of this project. One of my big issues with the CPC funding this is that, well, I got a couple, is that it's a for-profit corporation. So, the state and the federal, they get the state and federal tax credits pretty much to pay for everything, and now they're asking more money from us. And my biggest complaint, I don't know if I explained it correctly to the CPC, but in the land disposition agreement that we have with Penrose, it states in Section D that the towns, that we won't provide any further financial assistance to them, yet they're asking for it. And I know they're kind of saying, well, we need support, but, this is a for-profit corporation, and they're kind of going to do anything they possibly can to improve their bottom line. and that includes asking, CPC money from all the towns. So I have a pretty big issue with, giving them more money when we have an agreement with them saying that we would not provide any more money to them. And I think that's, I'm gonna keep it nice. So that's everything I have to say about them today. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Mr. Chair?
Wait, Ms.
Go ahead, Joanne.
Would you like to respond to that, please?
Yes, I will respond to that. First of all, we did look at the, I don't know if we'd call them the application, the Penrose, what Penrose submitted to the town, I think to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. What you see on the website when you look it up currently is that Penrose does state that they intend to come to the Chatham CPC for $500,000 for Main Street and $200,000 for Meeting House Road. So I'm not quite sure, there's been a lot of debate within Chatham, and I'm not sure when Mr. Phillips's statement was made, but what's currently on the town website are the Penrose proposals, and they do include proposed funding from the CPA.
It's right there. Want to read it?
Brian?
I can show you what's on the website that is.
This has not been out of, I just kind of feel like they've been dishonest a lot, and this is another step in that direction. Thank you.
Brian, are you presenting as well to the select board on this? Are you presenting as well to the select board on these two questions?
Oh, yes, I go to every meeting I possibly can
Okay,
to talk
that's
about
fine.
this.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Carrie, has the select board taken up either of these articles?
They have not. They see them on, I believe, February 24th.
Okay, all right. Thank
I would just encourage Brian to go onto the website and look at the proposals that are there from Penrose, and you will find what I just said.
Okay, Gary, you want to proceed?
Yes. The next item is the exterior restoration of the historic Harbor Master building. This comes to us from the town. Greg Berman and Jason Holm, the Harbor Master, presented this. I have to say that their original application was premature, I guess I would say. I don't think they had done a very thorough job of looking into what the historic aspects of this building were. And in their discussion with us, one of our committee members, Nancy Barr, who is on the Historical Commission, who is an archivist and who knows how to search historic buildings and has the access to that through Atwood House and the library, worked with them to find pictures of what the building looked like when it was originally built way back, I think, in the 1800s, and agreed to work with them to put together first of all, a comprehensive plan for the historic restoration of the building, but then also to support the reconstruction of a stairway and a deck, which they felt had become unsafe and that needed to be taken care of very quickly. So the $100,000 provides the plan for the historic restoration and the restoration of the stairway and the deck in accordance with that plan. In other words, the stairway and the deck will look, they'll be safe, but they'll also look like what they looked like in the original historic building. And we expect the town to come back next year with probably something like request for something like $250,000 to do the actual historic restoration of the siding, the windows, and other parts of the building.
Thank you, Gary. Questions? No, don't see any? All right, moving on.
Okay, so the restoration and preservation of the Marconi lattice towers. This is one where we actually wound up reducing what was requested. But we did that by reducing what's going to get done as well. So I think it was in 2022 that the town first came to the CPC, and at that time requested, I believe it was $284,000 to restore all three of the Marconi towers. Once they got the bids in, and there's a limited number of vendors, so they didn't get many bids in the first place. But once they got the bids in, it turned out to restore one tower was going to be about they estimate now $221,000. So they only had enough money to restore one tower, a little bit more than what it took to do one tower. And so they came back to us requesting $455,400 to do all three towers. And that's with some contingency included in that. And our committee had I would say, a very lively debate on whether the town needed three towers, two towers, or one tower in order to kind of maintain the historic picture of the Marconi period. And what we wound up recommending, in part because we weren't sure about whether we needed one, two, or three, and in part because we needed to reduce the budget, was to recommend $200,000, which in addition to what they have left over from the first tower, would allow them to restore a second tower. And I suspect we'll address the question of whether we need a third tower next year or perhaps the year after.
Thank you, Gary. Questions for Gary on this? Okay. Please.
All right, the People's Cemetery Restoration. This comes from the Cemetery Commission, and the CPC has been recommending CPA funding for restoration of cemeteries in Chatham, starting with Seaside. I think if you've seen what they did at Seaside, it really revitalized that cemetery. They're now proposing to do this at the People's Cemetery.
Okay. Anybody have questions for Gary on this? No? Okay. Gary, please proceed.
All right. The Cemetery Commission also came to us with a request for $98,860 to restore and improve the walkway to the Mack Monument restoration. They originally asked for the whole amount from the historic, but in looking into this, we felt that the pathway is not really historic. The monument is historic. The pathway isn't. But this is really a park, and we felt that restoring the pathway and making it, they want to make it an ADA pathway, could be supported under recreation. So this is one where we were able to help out our budget by tapping into that open space recreation reserve account for $78,000 of the total budget. So what we wound up recommending was the total amount, but split between historic and open space recreation.
I see a question. Go ahead.
Is this town property?
I believe it is town property,
Okay.
yes.
What was oh, I'm sorry. I think I'm jumping ahead. Never mind. Sorry. Thank you.
Okay, just briefly, Gary, does this include the area of the Siemens burying ground?
Yes, it does.
Okay, great, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, what do you got left there? Chatham beach signs.
All right. Again, a town project to come up with new Chatham beach signs. The old beach signs are plywood signs that have seen a lot of wear and aren't the most welcoming to our beaches. And so the Recreation Department, Beach and Recreation Department, is proposing to come up with new signs through a local contractor that will be, I guess, polyvinyl and much more permanent and much more attractive. And we'll have space for more information and be able to change that information more readily.
Thank you. I don't see any questions on that. Oh, go ahead.
Into the small stuff. Is there an idea of the lifespan of these structures? Because obviously anytime we put anything, whether it's a bench or a signage, there's a life expectancy and then there's a maintenance issue. So I'm just curious if they told you how long these signs might.
Our committee
exist.
did ask that question, and I believe the answer was at least 10 years.
Okay.
But I think that was a guess on their part as well. So,
Oh, moving on. Frostfish Creek Restoration and Revitalization.
all right, this is an application from the Chatham Conservation Foundation. Interesting project. The CPC recommended, I think it was in 2019, a study that the foundation was going to do on the impact of sea level rise on Frostfish Creek. And while they were out there doing some surveying, they noticed somebody else doing some surveying, and it turned out to be folks from the State Department of Transportation who were planning to significantly increase the size of the culvert under Route 28 leading into Frostfish Creek, which would, again, significantly increase the tidal flow onto the Chatham Conservation Preserve. It's a 55-acre preserve, affecting most of that preserve, changing it from a predominantly freshwater wetland into an estuarine marine wetland. And the state really was not all that, the Department of Transportation, interested in what was going to happen upstream. So the town and the Conservation Foundation sought input from other state agencies. And so the Division of Ecological Restoration from the state got involved, became very interested in the project, designated it a priority project, which has led to additional state funding that the town has been able to get toward the project. But the Conservation Foundation is still responsible for some of the upland areas, particularly the old cranberry bog up at the end of Frostfish Creek, where there's a weir that probably should be removed so that the tidal flow goes up there as well. So this study will, it's not more than a study, this project will enable the Conservation Foundation to work with the town and to work with 2 or 3 state agencies on this overall project. And hopefully we'll wind up with a marine wetland that we can all be proud of.
Thank you, Gary. Sounds to me like we could go to Mill Pond.
Yeah. The next project is also from the Chatham Conservation Foundation. A few years ago, with CPA funding, the Chatham Conservation Foundation put a trail into their preserve off Stage Harbor Road, just behind the Atwood House, that goes all the way down to an overlook on the Mitchell River. It's become a very popular trail. It's right in town. It's right where an awful lot of people walk. And the foundation has decided that in addition to the trail that's already there, which is a very, in some places, kind of a steep trail, a difficult trail, that they would also like to put in an ADA compatible trail, an accessibility trail. So it'll include part of the current trail, but there will also be significant new parts that enable it to be ADA. It will also have an overlook on the Mitchell River. It'll have 2 parking places off from Stage Harbor Road that people can unload their wheelchairs or whatever they need to do in order to gain access.
Thank you, Gary. Questions for Gary? This, please, John.
Does something like that have to go before the Conservation Commission?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. All of these, the Frostfish Creek and Mill Pond, will have to go, and Frostfish Creek will have to go before a number of permitting agencies.
Okay, thank you.
Kristen?
Any other permitting needed? I'm thinking about the parking area, because I know that was kind of a difficult challenge in years past.
I don't know if there's any permitting needed for the parking area. Certainly for the areas that get down into the wetlands, they'll have to go before the Conservation
More of
Commission.
zoning issues.
Yeah.
And I hope you don't. I'm not pushing that on the project at all. I'm just raising it. And given that this is on private property belonging to the foundation, it's presumably open to the public then?
Yes, the current trail, as I said, is open to the public. I think all the Chatham Conservation Foundation trails are not just open to the public, but the foundation has walks and talks and really promotes public use of the trail.
Understood, but land trust properties are privately owned, and they're not always. I mean, I'm not telling anything you don't know, but sometimes people give land to a land trust and with a stipulation that it just be preserved in its natural state and there not be trails. So I'm just asking the question because it's not a given that all of CCF's land as a land trust is open to the public for access.
You're right. Well, I mean,
Glad if that's your policy, if that's the foundation's policy, but I just wanted to state
yeah.
that.
No, the foundation does have preserves in which that was given to the foundation with a deed that restricts it to not being utilized through trails and the like. But this particular property we can use or the foundation can use for that
The last
purpose.
big project on your list is Cape Gold Park.
Yes, so this application came to us from the Chamber of Commerce. Although the chamber is representing a number of stakeholders, including the town and other, the Conservation Foundation, I think the group that worries about trees in town, I forget what their exact name is. The Friends of Trees are involved in this as well. So I think everybody agrees that Cape Gould Park is a great asset in town, but that it's probably an overused asset that shows some wear and tear. And so the beautification committee of the Chamber of Commerce, which involves all of these other groups, has put forward the idea of trying to make Cape Gould Park a more attractive, still highly used, but more attractive asset to the town. They recognize that change in Chatham is not easy, and that people are going to have a whole range of viewpoints as to what that restoration might look like. And so this particular application is to do an outreach program to interact with various organizations, the public, to hold a number of meetings, and to try to get input from all Chatham residents that want to provide input concerning what this restoration should look like, and then to have a number of meetings where they can try to come up with some consensus. And then I suspect once they have that consensus, they'll be coming back to the Community Preservation Committee with an application sometime in the future.
Gary, Kristen, you have a question?
So what is the $25,000 going to be spent on?
They're going to hire a consultant
Excellent.
that will
That's
be
what I was hoping.
that will do the outreach.
Who works on public spaces, public parks, public gardens. I would recommend that that be the case. I mean, I think it's important to have someone who's knowledgeable, because it's an expertise. It's not just, hey, let's do it this way. So I'm glad they're going to hire a professional, and I would hope somebody's overseeing what the criteria is for the professional.
Yeah, they've already run into the manpower problem. This came to us, it was Angela Bouchard who made the presentation. And of course, Angela has moved on, and so they had to look for other people on their beautification committee to pick up the slack. But all those people have other jobs that they're responsible for too.
Again, there are landscape architects who specialize in public spaces, and I think some of the thoughts that I'd heard swirling around about what needed to be done, I think would really benefit, the whole project would really benefit with someone who has expertise in this area.
We'll get that message to them. I don't know as if they need it, but we'll get it to them.
Thank you very much, Gary. Carrie, am I correct that the select board has not voted on any of these?
They have not.
Okay.
There are two more, just, the routine ones we do for the administrative budget for $15,000. We don't always spend that, but sometimes we have legal fees, so we need it. And the other is just the requirement that we put 10% into each of the three categories.
We've seen that previously.
Yep.
Okay, I'm a little reluctant to go ahead of the select board in this case. Go ahead, John.
I agree with you. Also, before we do vote on this, I'd like an answer to the land disposition question Mr. Phillips raised.
I think it's an excellent question that we should probably, ought to be part of the report to the select board, do you think? Okay. Go ahead, Kristen.
And just as another piece of information, and this is my public forum, I'd be interested to know whether that meeting house property is going to be on sewer, whether I'd hate to think of us putting more units on other septic systems, on individual systems. So that I'd like to know whether meeting house is going to be on sewer. I assume Stepping Stones is also going to be on sewer, and I have to assume that 1533 Main Street is going to be on sewer.
I'll find out for you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you. I think we're all set. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks so much, Gary. All right, we have some airport articles. I have heard.
Yes, we have Huntley Harrison here and Terry Whalen online to go over the two airport article requests for the town's match for two of the articles. One is for 7,500 match, and the other one is for 17,500 match. And they're
Have
both
either of
being-
these gone to the select board yet?
They did see them the other day, yes.
Did they vote to put them on the warrant?
They did not vote on them.
One did. I think one went.
They voted on one, I can find out
I
on the
think it was
scorecard.
the 17,500.
Oh,
The
yes,
other one
that
they
was the one,
deferred.
that was the one that went to town meeting last year and was voted down, so it's going back again this year. And they voted on that one and approved it. That was the 17.5.
Hey, welcome, Huntley.
Hi,
Thank you.
Huntley Harrison, Airport Commission Chairman, Chatham resident. Terry put together this report that we have that kind of gives you an overview of the requests. I think we'll go through that, and then if there are any questions, I can go ahead and take care of them.
Thank you.
So Terry, if you don't mind. Oh, maybe he's waiting for me to do it.
No, Huntley, can you see it? It should be up on the screen, so.
There we go.
Yep.
So are you going to talk through it, or am I?
Yeah, I'll run through it real quickly.
Okay,
I think
thank
that's easiest way to do that here. So, again, with, in your package, you had a copy of each draft article and its explanation. So again, Kerry gave the kind of breakdown of the two articles that are proposed for this annual town meeting. One is for a design aircraft study at $7,500, and this is for the match, and the same thing for an FY26 project, which is also for airport matching grant. So the two, I'm going to go through project by project, and again, I know with time here, I'll try to keep it pretty quick here so we can get right to any questions. So the first article for $7,500 is to fund a design aircraft study that will review the airport's current airport design group ADG designation plane. So the current design plane for the airport is a Beech Baron B-58. But in light of increased operations over the years by ADDG-2 aircraft, which is a Pilatus aircraft typically, which again, we have the photo in the lower right there, exceeding 500 operations annually, that triggers a need to conduct a review, primarily to see the safety and contrast it with existing conditions for future airport planning, safety, and maybe other mitigation measures that may be needed to accommodate the aircraft. Like a lot of the federal projects that we see for the airport, this project has the typical breakdown. The total project cost is $150,000. The federal share to do this study is $135,000. The state share is $7,500, and the local share is $7,500. So that's basically the request for the article here is to provide $7,500 in funding to provide that local match for the study. And the impact of doing this study is basically alleviating this funding, keeping the local match out of the operational airport revolving fund for other projects that they have going on over the course of a typical year. The second article is also, again, related to local match. This article basically is to provide funding for an article, for a project where the match is $17,500. And this is to replace critical navigation aids, including the runway end identifier lights, precision airport path indicators, the rotating beacon, and windsock. So again, just a picture here for I know a lot of acronyms here, but the PAPIs and the reels, and Huntley can, if you have questions on the technical aspects of those, he can respond to those. So again, basically this, has the same kind of leveraging impact of federal funding. Leverage $682,500 in federal state funding. This one, the match is a little bit different, where actually the town local share in this portion is only 2.5% due to a couple of different programs available to the commission. And then just to point out, if you recollect, this was a component of a broader airport capital article that did not pass at the previous town meeting. And the projects that are not being pursued at this point in time are parking lot improvements and the main apron rehabilitation and design. So the most critical safety project is being prioritized here as needing to be completed.
All right. Thank you, Terry.
You're welcome.
Doesn't look like it. All right, anybody online? Not seeing anything there. All right. I guess my only question was whether the air design group study is mostly being driven by the fact that we now have more landings
Yes.
yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah, it's our responsibility to see how we can mitigate safety with the more landings of the mostly the charter aircraft that come in.
Okay, appreciate it. All right, if we don't have any other questions, once this article, I believe, has not yet gone to the select board.
Yes, it did.
But the one on the.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, the 17.5 did. I'm sorry.
17.5 did, this has not yet.
No, they've both gone.
What was the result of the 75? I thought they deferred that.
They both went to the select board, and they listened to both of them on Tuesday night, correct? And they
Yes.
voted on the 17.5, and they were going to hold on the study, right?
Okay.
Right.
So they
Is
have
that
not
correct,
yet.
Terry?
Right.
Yes.
And if I can, my recollection is too that, Carrie, that they were looking for input from the finance committee on that as well. So I don't know
Yeah.
if it's a chicken and egg situation.
Oh, is
but-
that, okay, sorry. There were so many things
yeah.
going on that night. I was here till 10,
Yeah.
so I'm sorry. But they have, they did request to hear what the FinCom would say and vote on this particular article.
Really?
The study, yes.
Oh, my heavens.
Yeah,
Ahead of time, no
yes,
less.
yes.
Oh, wow. Imagine my astonishment.
Would you like a small explanation of why?
Who is? Oh, Brian, you have something? Sorry, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Oh, do you want him to go before me here?
Please, yeah.
All right,
I'm the chairman.
Brian Phillips, 374 Orleans Road. I'm on the airport commission. So I, was at the select board meeting, and I did vote for this last night, but I kind of feel like there was a lot of things I didn't take into consideration, and maybe I didn't do my due diligence as well as I should have. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this or not, but I think the purview of the scope, I hope I use those words right, might not necessarily be what the select board was looking for. I got the LDA, and I got the wrong packet. But it kind of seemed like some of, that there might be unintended consequences of the study, that, they could say something like, well, you have to, make, expand the airport essentially. And it kind of, the language in it was that it was to kind of go from a B1 to a B2 to be able to host the larger planes. So I think that there was, possible language of unintended consequences that were unknown for that, and that's kind of why they paused a little bit on it.
Okay, I think I understand that, John.
Sorry, just rambling.
I understand the nuance you're trying to describe. My question is, who actually decides the scope of the study? It sounded to me from Huntley's explanation that we're required to conduct a study.
Yeah, at this point.
Parameters laid out by the.
Yeah, we have our scope of work. It's been laid out, and it was modified last night, and I received the updated copy today. There are three things that they're going to look at. One is if there are any geometric changes that are necessary at the airport because of these B-2 aircraft that are coming in. The second one would be a modification of standards, which the FAA would look at and say, we can modify, it's like a waiver in a sense. And then the third thing would be operational changes on the ground. For example, if a charter flight is coming in, PC-12 of the type B-2 is arriving, and there's one ready to depart, we would hold the one ready to depart until the other one lands and parks, and then we'd send the other one out. That would just be a communication between the pilot and the people on the ground to make sure. So those are the three types of things. There may be more that I'm not unaware of, but the scope is going to look at all that to try to mitigate any issues that could exist. meeting the other night that because we didn't have the two new modifications in there, I think that's one reason they held it up. There was also a citizen who spoke at the meeting and said they didn't think we should be spending this money at all because the FAA is probably going to approve it anyway regardless. So I couldn't answer that, but I think it's important that we go on record as having done the study so that if any liability issues come up in the future, we're covered and say we didn't, in other words, we didn't ignore it. We did something about it.
Stephen, you have your hand up? Stephen, you're muted.
Bugger, all right. Is this study ultimately in the service of safety, Huntley or Terry?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. John, go ahead.
I appreciate the opportunity to ask the questions. At this point, I have some concern about the setting of the scope of the study. And I think it's a question of policy, and I'm not comfortable voting myself on it today, but I do believe that we should take a position on it. But as far as that scope, I'm unsure if it's required. You mentioned people showed up at the policy side of this discussion at the select board, questioning whether we should do it because the FAA is just going to approve it anyways. I feel like we're drifting away from the responsibility and the role of the Finance Committee on this question at this point. Until it's clarified, I'm not comfortable voting on it.
Okay.
All right, other questions from the Finance Committee members? Doesn't look like it. All right. I think maybe we'll just leave it there for now. Appreciate it. Thank you
Okay.
so much, Hundley.
Thank you.
All right.
Were you going to talk about the other one?
Not at the moment.
Are you,
Carrie, is there another meeting scheduled for this room?
there's a meeting right after this, but there was two articles.
At what time? Huh?
Yeah, it's at 4 o'clock, the other meeting.
Okay, so we need to wind up here.
Yep, that's
Fairly
fine.
quickly.
Okay.
What would you like us to do? The other two articles? Or on
No, John just said he wasn't comfortable, so we'll just hold those for now, and then
No,
we
I mean, I'm
can,
willing to
we
just
can
stand
just
All right, for now.
close up the meeting so they can start their
Okay,
meeting.
because we should be discussing our preliminary report to the select board,
Oh, yeah,
but I haven't heard anything from Stephen, nor I understand have too many comments gone to him. You all
I've-
individually,
I've received nothing from any committee member, which is disappointing. Did you get that?
okay, all right. Well, we need to get that information to Stephen as soon as we can. All right, okay, good.
Correct.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Great. Those in favor, Stephen,
Support?
Joanne Sprague,
Yes.
Barb Madison,
Yes.
John Papalardo, Kristen Andres.
Yes.
Tracy Shields.
yep.
Tommy Doan, are you still on there?
Yes,
Would you like to get off?
yes.
Okay, you're in favor of that then. All right, good. Eric has already departed. I'm temporary chair, and I vote aye as well. Thank you. We stand adjourned.